Lake success, the United Nations Political Committee debates an issue as vital as any in its history. Shall Red China be labeled an aggressor in Korea? Russian delegate Syrapkin fights for delay. A crucial vote comes on the 12-power Asian Arab resolution to invite Red China once again to talk peace. Backed by Russia and her satellite countries, the resolution is decisively defeated. The American demand to label Communist China clearly as an aggressor is now supported by Britain, whose position previously had been uncertain. By an overwhelming 44 votes to 7, with only Burma and India joining the Russian bloc, the committee adopts the resolution condemning Red China, calling for the study of sanctions, but also establishing a special committee to seek peace. The General Assembly itself confirms the action, and Red China stands branded by the Parliament of the world. As the UN acts, Lieutenant General Ridgway, 8th Army Commander, directs a limited offensive in Korea. Patrols go out. The Chinese are reported severely crippled from their reckless push below Seoul. But the UN attack is still cautious. Defeated on the diplomatic front and upset in battle, the Communists fail so far to win the gains they have sought through force and aggression. From Washington, General of the Armies Eisenhower sets out on a mission unprecedented in history to organize and command an international army to defend Western Europe against communist aggression.
Mr. President, I devoutly pray that the mission on which I am leaving this morning will result in nothing but peace, security, and tranquility for our various nations.
Secretaries Marshall and Atchison are present as he leaves to visit each of the 12 nations which, through a treaty called the Atlantic Pact, have banded together for mutual defense. His first stop is Paris. On this quick survey trip, Ike's job is to find out what each nation is willing to contribute to their joint defense. He makes courtesy calls short, this one to French President Vincent Auriol, and working meetings long. From the start, he meets encouragement. At this meeting, French defense officials agree to mobilize 7 new divisions. Belgium and Holland come next. In each, General Eisenhower, contrasting his last European command, whose aim was winning the war, with his present command, whose aim is winning the peace, emphasizes the need for speed in rebuilding Europe's defenses. From Holland, Eisenhower visits Denmark and Norway. Everywhere he is reminded of the difficulties of his job. For Europeans who so recently lived through 5 years of bombings and occupation think twice about anything connected with arms or armies. Getting back to London, where he spent so much time during World War II, seems, Ike says, like being back home. He's greeted by many wartime colleagues, including Field Marshal Viscount Montgomery, who'll again be a top Eisenhower lieutenant. British defense officials promised to raise 5 new divisions and to double tank and plane production. Italy's communists naturally don't want Europe to build its defenses. And in Rome, that's St. Peter's below, there are strikes. But across Italy, they fizzle out. Ike tells President Einaudi, Foreign Secretary Sforza, and Premier de Gasperi that Italy must resist aggression and promises Allied aid. Then he hurries to Germany. Here he is greeted by America's High Commissioner McCloy and reviews Allied occupation troops before conferring with the Germans. He promises German military equality, saying that as far as he's concerned, bygones are bygones. Ahead lie stops in Iceland and Canada to round out his 3-week, 20,000-mile survey trip. Then it's back to the United States, 12th Atlantic Pact partner. Arriving on a blustery midwinter day at Washington's National Airport, where his trip began, General Eisenhower again finds his president on hand. Next day, Ike gives Congress the crucial information he set out to seek. The 12 Atlantic Pact nations can do the job.
I have no end to serve, as I know you have no end to serve, except the good of the United States. And that is the reason I am back in uniform, and it is the reason that I have the courage to appear before this body to express my conviction.
Saying Europe has the will to defend itself, he supports the sending of arms and men abroad.
Let us not forget the strength of America, its great people, its history, its broad acres, its productive capacity, its great capacity for leadership. And then let us keep in our minds the kind of an organization we will have when we bind that up, heart and soul, and in material ways, with our friends across the sea.
Films captured by Allied intelligence in Korea give the West a close look at Russia's newest planes. This is a copy of America's B-29. Russia's jets include these Yaks, the Red's first jet fighter, probably based on German models. 100 miles faster than the Yaks are two newer models, the Lavochkin and the MiG-15. With speeds up to 650 miles an hour, only 10 miles behind America's fastest, the Sabre, Russia's jets get special attention from Air Force intelligence, as more and more of them, flown perhaps by Chinese Reds, appear in battle over Korea. Russian-made jets behave in battle with American planes can be seen as Navy Panthers take off on missions over North Korea. Gun sight cameras record for the first time in history a battle between jet fighters as the Panthers go after two Russian-built MiG-15s. One red jet is hit. The other streaks for home. Then the first is hit again and goes down over the Yalu River from 6,000 feet. In battle over a mile high in Korea, the Navy's carrier-based jet fighter proves its tremendous value. Now, from fields in South Korea, Air Force F-86 Sabres take off to search for the enemy. Their cameras, synchronized to shoot automatically whenever the guns fire, record a duel with the Russian MiG jet. The Sabres' bullets find their mark. The MiG goes down in flames. American jet planes and jet pilots pass combat tests with flying colors.
Overlooking the city of Washington is the legislative center of American life, the U.S. Capitol. As our country faces important challenges at home and abroad, the new 82nd Congress convenes. It shows many changes among both Republicans and Democrats. New faces include Democratic Senators Clements of Kentucky, Smith of North Carolina, Hennings of Missouri, Pastore, Rhode Island, Monroney, Oklahoma, Smathers of Florida. Senator Russell Long of Louisiana and veteran Tom Connally of Texas, Senate Foreign Relations Chairman. Ernest W. McFarland of Arizona is the new Senate Majority Leader. Senator Lyndon Johnson of Texas is Senate Whip. House leaders are Majority Leader McCormick of Massachusetts, Speaker Rayburn of Texas, and J. Percy Priest of Tennessee, House Whip. New Republican senators are Carlson of Kansas, Dirksen of Illinois, and Butler of Maryland. Carlson, 12 years a representative, now a freshman senator. Former Congressman Dirksen defeated Senate Majority Leader Lucas. Butler upset veteran Millard Tydings. Top Republican Senators Milliken of Colorado, Taft of Ohio, and Wherry of Nebraska now lead a party which has cut the Democratic Senate majority to only 2 votes. The workshop of these men, the Capitol building, has, since Washington laid the cornerstone in 1793, been continually rebuilt and repaired to meet the needs of a growing democracy. Last year, Congress moved out for the latest repairs. The work is complete as the 82nd Congress convenes in 1951. Speaker of the House Sam Rayburn and Republican House Leader Joseph W. Martin open the new session. Rayburn, whom fellow congressmen of both parties hold in highest esteem, takes office as Speaker. Now in his 20th term in Congress, Mr. Rayburn enters his 6th term as Speaker of the House, breaking the record set in 1825 by Henry Clay. With With the reinforced Republican minority changing the voting lineup, the House chamber itself also has a new look. But the famous portrait of Washington and the Webster plaque, familiar to tourists, are still there. President Truman makes his first appearance in the completely refurbished chamber of the House. Before a joint session of Congress, he delivers his annual State of the Union address. The president asks for strength and unity at home and abroad as he speaks from the rebuilt stand, noticeably different from the great white marble rostrum from which he last addressed Congress. In its brave new surroundings, the 82nd Congress buckles down to strengthen the nation under law for peace or war. A traditional treat for the physics students at the University of Toronto is Professor John Satterley's annual lecture on the properties of liquid air. Professor Satterley, 70, head of the university's physics department, is near retirement, but his science circus, famed throughout Canada, is as exciting as ever. Here's the subject: air turned into liquid at a 300 below zero temperature. That's mighty cool, but the good professor doesn't mind at all. He's been doing this sort of thing for a generation, and he's still at least as spry as any of his pupils. The demonstration begins innocently enough with the professor dropping a few odd objects, a banana, an egg, and so on, into the super frigid liquid air. He prefers fresh eggs. Now a couple of daffodils from the professor's garden, followed by a chunk of rubber tubing. Though the accent is on fun, there's a straightforward scientific reason for each move. This contraption is designed to show the pressure possibilities of liquid air. When the liquid air grows warmer and becomes a gas again, it expands rapidly, a fact which delights the professor and which he doesn't want his class to forget. Now the liquid air is expanding and blowing up the balloon. Now let's see those daffodils. And here's the rubber tube. Shatters like glass. Very interesting, Professor, but what about that balloon? When the professor turns to pyrotechnics, things really get wild. An open jar of liquid air gradually becomes almost pure oxygen and highly inflammable. It's rugged playing professor of physics as John Satterley plays it, but Toronto students generally remember what he's taught them.
Towering tall in Oregon's Cascade Range, 55 miles east of Portland, is fabulous Mount Hood, 2 miles high. It's great country for skiers if they can get up there, for clearing the roads to the summit is a tremendous job. But vacationists can now board a bus for the Mount Hood Skiers Paradise. With comfortable seats and plenty of room, the bus is like almost any other bus, except for one small detail. It flies through the air with the greatest of ease. Unless you insist on walking, you take the skiway, the longest and largest aerial tramway in the world, to the top. 2 years of work went into building this Timberline trolley. On a web of cables, it climbs 2,100 feet in 10 minutes. At the summit, the passengers disembark at $2 million Timberline Lodge, built by the federal government in 1937. Some are experienced skiers, and some are just getting their ski legs. It's skiers away down Mount Hood's snowy slopes, thanks to to the skiway, here's one place where it takes longer to come down than to go up. At Cypress Gardens, Florida, it's the unbelievable speedboat steeplechase, the only race in the world that takes place on land, on sea, and in the air. The tiny 13-foot boats have a 12-mile course ahead. It looks as if they'll never make it, as the outrageous outboards take off like Mexican jumping beans. Now through the tall timber. Most of the drivers dodge the cypress, but others try climbing them. It's into the air for 40 to 60 feet as the outboards take to the hurdles. Cuts the finish tape 70 feet up on shore.
Anything else?
No, yes, there is something else. Would you request the band to play Dixie for me?
Dixie? Mr. President.
Dixie, sir? Somehow I think it would be a fitting thing at this time, in this place.
Fellow citizens, the President is very tired, and he'd like to be excused until tomorrow. He asks that the band play Dixie. Dixie? Why, what does he mean by that?
Does he know that Gettysburg is in Pennsylvania?
Why, they seem to like it.
Why not? It's a mighty fine tune.
At Gettysburg Cemetery the following day, November 19, 1863, the audience listened to hours of patriotic orations. Finally, President Lincoln was called upon.
87 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men living and dead who struggled here have consecrated it, far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us. That from these honored dead, we take increased devotion to the cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain. That this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth.